All right, we will move from the ball diamond to the hardwood. Game 5 of the NBA Finals is tonight. Denver Nuggets hosting the Heat. Nuggets enter as a 9-point favorite. Lewis, do the Nuggets get it done tonight, close out the series, and win their first NBA title in franchise history?
Yes. Next subject. No, I just like the Nuggets have only lost one game at home all postseason, and it was to the Heat, to be fair. And if there is a team that you are not going to bet against in this postseason, it's the Miami Heat. Just how they've been battling the odds, how they've been coming through. They've been such an amazing story coming all the way here from an 8th seed to, having a 1 win in the NBA Finals, 3 wins away from winning it all. But the Nuggets are just a machine, man. Truly. It's hard for me to see the Heat being able to steal another one, especially on the road. If this game was in Miami, I think there'd be a better shot, but it's gonna be hard for the Heat to pull this one away. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Do you want Petty Mark to come out early on, or like where do you want? Do you want me to be petty? Do you want me to be professional? What would you like?
I love
Lewis?
Petty. I love Petty.
Okay,
I
Petty
love
Mark
Petty. Let me
will
hear
come out on the pod right now. Let's get Mark Gottfried on the home to give a pep talk to Caleb Martin, NC State's very own. It's been like, for me, the difference in this series is Caleb Martin in the Eastern Conference Finals outplayed Jaylen Brown, played out of his mind. You look at the game logs and the statistical production, he's not even averaging 7 points per game. This was a player that you really, really relied on in the round before. Now, I understand that was what is now looking like an anomaly, but can you help Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo? And it's like, Butler to me is not 100%. If after the season it comes out, oh, he needs ankle surgery or foot surgery, I wouldn't be surprised, because to me, he just doesn't have the lift, the bounce, the juice that he normally has as a star player. It's not to say he hasn't played well at times, but Jimmy Butler hasn't had that like dominant signature game in this series that he would need to have at least once for the Heat to pull off an upset as an 8 seed, if you will.
It reminds me of like when the Heat were in that finals against the Lakers in the bubble, and Jimmy Butler has that like 40-point triple-double game. Like, it feels like that's what the Heat would need in order to pull this one away.
And like, here's the thing too, when I always try to listen to what the players say, Lewis, because what they say or what they don't say can determine a lot. But like, talk to any athlete down 3-1, they're going to be like, yeah, we like our odds. Any athlete who's competitive to say, yeah, we have to win 3 games in a row and we win a title, I'll take that. But there's a reason why in the finals that the 2016 Cavs are the only team in NBA history to overcome that deficit. You mentioned how good Denver's been at home this season. I initially thought the series would go to 6 games. I mean, if the Heat are able to pull off an upset tonight, that to me would be huge. But I think the Nuggets do end up getting it done tonight. And if not tonight, game 6, because the Heat would have to expend all of their energy and resources to where it's win or go home. I just don't see that happening with the way that they match up against the Nuggets. I mean, I go to game 4, right, where Jokic dealt with foul trouble, which the other league superstars don't have to put up with. The LeBron James, the Kevin Durant's of the world. I could list off other players, but Jokic deals with foul trouble. Jamal Murray gets held in check, at least to an extent. Okay, and then Anthony ends up picking up the slack for the Nuggets. Like, so if you weren't going to win game 4 when Jokic and Murray didn't play that well, what happens in a game where they do play it well at home in a closeout game to where it's like, hey, they win and they win the title tonight? So initially I thought this series would go 6 games. I'd be really surprised. Like, yes, don't bet against the Heat, but they have a tall task. I don't think they'll be able to upset the Nuggets tonight. I think the Nuggets bring home the title. We'll see, though.
So, like, I think what made this NBA final so fascinating was the individual storylines, the adjustments, the strategy involved, right? Malone's has had a really good year with the Nuggets. Obviously, he's been there for a while now. Eric Spoelstra, I've made my opinion on Eric Spoelstra pretty clear. I think he's the best coach in the NBA right now. But it's like the Heat came out and adjusted in game 2, and were able to take game 2 because of those adjustments. And the Nuggets responded, and they made changes. And now, well, like, what more is there to do? I also, a big part, and because I remember very vividly the conversation after game 2, when the Heat won, was, oh, you got to take away the other players for the Nuggets and just let Jokic go off, and then that'll be, that's how you win. Like, oh man, you got to limit everyone else, let him become a scorer, which is a little ridiculous. But when you look at, really, it's all about the Nuggets defense, like the Nuggets defense, or the lack of Heat offense, if you will. You mentioned the backcourt issues, people like Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, like those type of players. Are they scoring? Are they hitting from outside? In the game that the Heat were able to steal against the Nuggets, they shot 48.7% from 3. In the 3 games that they've lost, 33.3%, 31.4%, 32%. That's a 93-point loss, or 93 points in a loss, 111 points in a win, 94 points in a loss, 95 points in a loss. They just haven't been able to keep up with the Nuggets offense. And whether that be because of Jokic doing exactly what we expect of Jokic, whether it be Jamal Murray being one of the best playoff performers we've seen over the past few years, whether it be like the Aaron Gordons.
Aaron Gordon is what I meant earlier, Lewis, to where the Heat hold Jokic and Murray in check, and then Aaron Gordon is the difference in game 4. And then Aaron Gordon's defense on Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's been able to bully other players all throughout this playoffs. He has not been able to do that against Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, Aaron Gordon's been, and it's funny when you look at, like, oh yeah, Aaron Gordon's like the 3rd best player on that team. Like, this is a guy who was an all-star, borderline all-star in Orlando. Like, so they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of talent. And I think ultimately that is going to be what does it, is that the Heat are just kind of, the battle is just a little bit too uphill for the Heat. If it would not shock me if they steal this game, though, just because of what we know this Heat team to be, how they react, how they adjust, how much they battle. Like, this is a very fun team to watch, a very fun team to root for. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I everything about this game tells me, yep, it's a wrap. Congrats to the Nuggets for your first ever NBA Finals championship.
I thought maybe Tyler Hero could make a difference if he came back, but that would be a lot to ask of a player. But he did average 20 points per game during the regular season. One thing I want to ask you really quickly before tonight's game, what's more likely come back down 3-1, Miami Heat in the series against the Nuggets, or the Florida Panthers in the series against the Golden Knights in hockey?
I'm going to go Panthers because I think the NHL is a little bit it's a little bit more chaotic, just in terms of, like, the Stanley Cup finals are always that way. Stanley Cup playoffs are always like that. So I'd go Panthers. It's this Nuggets team. You kind of felt it at the beginning of the playoffs. It's going to be, especially once you saw how the Nuggets handled, like, the Timberwolves. I know they're Timberwolves, but still, it's going to be, I think, hard for any team to beat this Nuggets team in a best-of-7 series in this iteration of the NBA.
I hate to agree with you, but Matthew Tkachuk is still playing for the Panthers, right?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so since he's still playing, I will agree with you. I'll take the Panthers.
There you go. Although it's tough. I think
comeback. For the record, I don't expect either comeback to happen, but if I had to pick one between the Heat or the Panthers, which is more likely, trying to throw some love to any people down in Florida that may be watching WRAL Triangle and Two.
Yeah, sports are so cruel, man. They're so cruel. You're 1 minute you're riding high. You're a Miami sports fan. And you're like, oh man, 2 of my teams are in the finals, and the next thing you know, they're both down 3-1. Like, sports are tough. Sports are not for the weak-hearted. I tell you what.